even death threats.
Kill her and be done with it.
Terence McKenna on the changing political climate in Germany.
The threshold of brutal language, of hatred, open hatred, has been lowered, absolutely.
Ready, aim, fire.
I inherited a mess. Russia is fake news. Donald Trump rants and raves at the press.
A presidential press conference like you've never seen. Plus more tributes to Stuart McLean and a side of his career you may not have known.
Trouble-making troubadours.
Donald Trump once said he would be a different president than he was candidate. Today he proved he isn't. He gave a surprise news conference and he had news, a new cabinet nominee, an update about replacing Obamacare, but he spent most of the 75 minutes slamming the news media, accusing them of lying. The tone, his words, spoke right to Trump's supporters, but left many others stunned. Here's Lindsay Duncombe.
He hasn't even been president a month, and with all the things he has to worry about, Donald Trump seems most concerned with how his presidency is being covered.
I turn on the TV, open the newspapers, and I see stories of chaos. Chaos. Yet it is the exact opposite. This administration is running like a fine-tuned machine.
Especially bothersome for Trump, reports of his campaign being linked to Russia.
You can talk all you want about Russia, which was all a, fake news fabricated deal to try and make up for the loss of the Democrats, and the press plays right into it.
Trump railed against leaks.
How does the press get this information that's classified? How do they do it? You know why? Because it's an illegal process, and the press should be ashamed of themselves. But more importantly, the people that gave out the information to the press should be ashamed of themselves. Really ashamed.
When asked how news could be fake but leaks could be real, he answered,
"The leaks are absolutely real. The news is fake because so much of the news is fake."
Trump defended his travel ban, closing the border to refugees and people from 7 majority Muslim countries. He said the court that halted it was in turmoil.
The only problem that we had is we had a bad court. We had a court that gave us what I consider to be, with great respect, a very bad decision. Very bad for the safety and security of our country. The rollout was perfect.
The president frequently mentioned the campaign, Hillary Clinton, and the size of his victory.
I guess it was the biggest electoral college win since Ronald Reagan.
It wasn't. Obama, Clinton, and George Bush Sr. had bigger margins. A reporter pointed that out.
My question is, why should Americans trust you when you accuse the information they receive of being fake when you're providing information?
Well, I don't know. I was given that information. I've seen that information around. But it was a very substantial victory. Do you agree with that?
You're the president.
Trump insulted CNN.
Very fake news.
I know, but aren't you?
Singled out reporters.
Where are you from?
BBC.
Okay. Here's another beauty.
And praised questions he liked.
Now that's what I call a nice question. That is very nice. Who are you with?
A reporter asked a softball question about his wife.
Good, I'm going to start watching.
Trump said he was having fun.
Tomorrow they will say, Donald Trump rants and raves at the press. I'm not ranting and raving. I'm just telling you, you're dishonest people. But I'm not ranting and raving. I love this.
For anyone skeptical of Donald Trump's presidency so far, this performance won't help. But Trump supporters are another story. The guy they saw today, unpredictable, combative, insulting, is the guy they warmed to on the campaign trail. Talk show host Rush Limbaugh called this the most effective press conference he's ever seen. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Washington.
After being asked repeatedly by reporters whether his campaign aides or anyone advising his campaign had communicated with Russia during the election, Trump finally answered, "Nobody that I know of." He also said he condoned his now former national security advisor's phone call with the Russian ambassador during the transition, in which Michael Flynn discussed U.S. sanctions against Moscow.
Mike was doing his job. He was calling countries and his counterparts So it certainly would have been okay with me if he did it. I would have directed him to do it if I thought he wasn't doing it. I didn't direct him, but I would have directed him because that's his job.
Trump says he fired Flynn only because he misled the vice president about the contents of the call. Tonight, the Washington Post is reporting that Flynn also lied to the FBI about it, and lying to the FBI is a felony. By the way, the man Trump tapped to succeed Flynn as national security advisor said, "No thanks," today. At one point, Trump said that the greatest thing he could do would be to shoot a Russian ship in international waters off the U.S. East Coast right out of the water. His cabinet is taking a bit more of a measured approach to Russia. Thomas Dagla explains.
Off the plane and into the fire. On his first trip abroad as U.S. Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson dove right into his country's rocky relationship with Russia.
Where we do not see eye to eye, the United States will stand up for the interest and values of America and her allies.
Secretary, how are you?
At the G20 summit in Germany, he met with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov. So far, the highest level face-to-face talks between the Trump administration and the Kremlin. They swore there'd be no discussion here about U.S. sanctions on Moscow, nor on any turmoil in Washington.
You should know that we do not interfere in domestic matters of other countries.
Meanwhile, in Brussels, Trump's defense secretary was leading his first meeting of the coalition fighting ISIS, a battle Trump has said Russia could help with. Just not yet, warned James Mattis.
We will engage politically. We are not in a position right now to collaborate on a military level.
Not with a country that reportedly deployed a banned missile and this week sent this spy vessel to patrol off the coast of Connecticut. Today, speaking at Russia's spy agency, Vladimir Putin offered no explanation for that, but did say this. It's in everyone's interest to resume dialogue between the intelligence agencies of the United States and other members of NATO. Building those bridges could be tougher than first thought. Trump said it himself today and blamed his favorite target, the media.
The false, horrible, fake reporting makes it much harder to make a deal with Russia.
It might not be what Putin expected, but for him, the second best thing to a submissive America is a chaotic one, says this Kremlin watcher.
Well, what stands out to me in the US administration is the degree of incoherence that we're seeing. Russia isn't really a monolith, but by contrast to the United States right now, it actually looks like one.
Strange bedfellows, yes, united perhaps only in their unpredictability. Thomas Dagler, CBC News, London.
Unpredictability in the U.S. intelligence establishment or among its political masters is definitely not good news for Canada's defense community. It relies heavily on its southern counterparts. So a high-level U.S. reassurance today was likely welcome, even if some might worry they reassured too much. The CBC's Murray Brewster explains.
The intrigue and turmoil around the leaks of Michael Flynn's conversations with the Russian ambassador to the U.S. has a potential impact in this country. All of it makes people in Canada's defense, security, and intelligence communities nervous. But today in Ottawa, a calm, reassuring voice.
There is truly no closer relationship than the one between Canada and the United States.
The U.S. and Canada have shared air defense over North America for 6 decades, and General Lori Robinson went out of her way several times to reassure her audience of defense officials and commentators.
The United States and Canada maintain one of the strongest partnerships known to mankind.
But it is definitely an unequal partnership. Canada is heavily dependent on the U.S. for both defense and intelligence. This country gets more security information from the U.S. than it gives. It was the Americans who tipped off the RCMP to the presence of Canadian Navy spy Jeffrey Delisle, as well as an ISIS-inspired terror plot last summer. Experts worry the finger-pointing in Washington could make U.S. agencies clam up.
People are starting to call this an intelligence war in Washington that is bad news for Canada on many fronts.
In particular, it could be bad news for Canadian officials who want to be kept in the loop about Russia's global intentions. Under Donald Trump, U.S. intelligence may be more reluctant to share its insight. Being in the dark may force Canada to rethink whether it needs its own foreign intelligence service.
If the United States starts to restrict this access and damage the comfortable assumptions that we've lived with, then we're going to have to respond to that.
Public Safety Minister Ralph Goodale would not comment directly today on all of the turmoil. However, he did say that the intelligence sharing nations, known as the Five Eyes community, will meet later this year. He says there has been nothing in exchanges with the U.S. thus far to set off alarm bells. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations seemed to correct her boss today over her country's position on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Nikki Haley told the Security Council the U.S. absolutely supports a two-state solution. But yesterday, standing beside Israel's Prime Minister, Donald Trump was less certain.
I thought for a while the two-state looked like it may be the easier of the two. But honestly, if Bibi and if the Palestinians, if Israel and the Palestinians are happy, I'm happy with the one they like the best.
According to Ambassador Haley, anyone who believed the U.S. was dumping the two-state solution was in error. The White House has abandoned its legal battle to uphold its controversial immigration ban. Instead, Donald Trump said he will accomplish the goal by signing a new executive order next week. That might have given even more impetus today to a series of already planned protests. In cities across much of the U.S., immigrants, both legal and illegal, took the day off work. Their point was to show how important their labor is to local economies and to express their objection to the administration's stance on immigration. There are insults, slurs, even death threats. An Ontario MP says she fears for her safety after receiving 50,000 messages from Canadians, many of them hate-filled. The source of the anger being aimed at her is that motion we told you about last night, calling on Parliament to condemn Islamophobia. Ikra Khalid is the MP who brought it forward. What you'll hear her read in this story from those messages is brutal and it's graphic, but it is important to hear it. Catherine Cullen has the story.
She, the terrorist sympathizer, the terror inducer, the disgusting human being.
That's one of the threatening messages Ikra Khalid says she's gotten since she introduced a motion condemning Islamophobia. Here are some more.
Kill her and be done with it. I agree. She is here to kill us. She is sick and she needs to be deported. We will burn down your mosques, draper-head Muslim. Blank you gently with a chainsaw, you camel-humping terrorist incubator blank. Shoot this blank.
Khalid says those comments are proof Islamophobia is real. She put forward a non-binding motion on the subject in December, which has become an increasingly politically charged, partisan issue. The part that's attracted so much attention calls on the government to, quote, condemn Islamophobia and all forms of systemic racism and religious discrimination, and have the Heritage Committee develop an approach to stopping it. Certainly, there was widespread condemnation of the threats Khalid has received, and horror at the killing of 6 men in a Quebec City mosque.
For all of you who have spoken out about your concerns,
but there's been growing pushback against the motion, like this protest last night in Toronto. Some fear the resolution could lead to criminalizing anyone who criticizes Islam, even though the motion is just a statement of opinion and won't change any laws. Opponents also question the meaning of the word Islamophobia.
is it not fair to say that there might be some concern about the term? And that does not then mean people are xenophobic or racist.
I'm afraid that if ISIS jihadists came over, they might cut my head off and rape me. Is that Islamophobia? I don't know.
The Conservatives put forward a motion to condemn all religious intolerance and racism without the word Islamophobia in it. But even if switching out the word Islamophobia for anti-Muslim sentiments is something all parties might agree on, the Liberals aren't interested.
It doesn't mean because you're not using the term that actually it doesn't exist. And basically, by not using the term, you're contributing to the problem.
Though this is not just about intolerance, the Liberals are also trying to score some partisan points here.
Meanwhile, what's happening within the Conservative Party is that there's some leadership candidates that have been doing fundraising based on the fact of not condemning Islamophobia, have been also rallying support because of it. So this is an issue.
And the Liberals are well aware that drawing a sharp contrast between themselves and the Conservatives on issues of identity politics helped them win the last election. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
Coming up.
I think a lot of people would listen to this interview and think she is racist and xenophobic and proud of it.
Yeah, I don't care.
Terence McKenna in Germany, talking to politicians who may be poised for power. The Prime Minister is also in Germany tonight, set to meet with Angela Merkel tomorrow. Today, he addressed the European Parliament on a theme important to many Canadians, especially right now. David Cochran is covering Justin Trudeau's trip.
Justin Trudeau used his visit to the European Parliament as a sales pitch for free trade. He called the CETA agreement between Canada and Europe the most progressive trade deal in history. But with that praise came a warning.
If we are successful, CETA will become the blueprint for all ambitious future trade deals. If we are not, this could well be one of the last.
The EU Parliament voted to approve CETA just yesterday by a vote of about 58%. Some still need convincing, and that's why Trudeau is here.
We live in a time when many people are worried that the current system only benefits society's luckiest few. And their concern is valid.
Those concerns have helped spark a surge of right-wing populism across Europe. So Canada and Europe are determined to show that CETA is the solution to middle-class problems rather than the cause. But Europe also wants Canada's help in dealing with another force of protectionism, namely Donald Trump.
Keep wealth on our continent.
Trudeau showed the world during his White House visit on Monday that he could find common ground with the President of the United States. So now the President of the European Parliament says Canada can act as a bridge between the continents.
The relations between Europe and Canada are very, very important for paving the way for a better relation between the European Union and the United States of America.
For his part, Trudeau sought to reassure Europe that Trump can be worked with.
What I saw from the American president was a focus on getting things done for the people who supported him and who believe in him. Well, demonstrating that good relations with one's neighbors is a great way of getting things done.
Justin Trudeau is in Berlin tonight, where he had a private dinner with German Chancellor Angela Merkel. The two leaders have a formal meeting set for tomorrow, where they're expected to discuss key issues in the global economy, as well as defense and security. But given the Prime Minister's visit to Washington on Monday, it's a safe bet the Chancellor will want Trudeau's impressions on how to deal with Donald Trump. David Cochran, CBC News, Berlin.
ISIS has claimed responsibility for a horrible attack in a shrine in Pakistan. At least 75 people died, including a reported 20 women and 9 children. The shrine is well known as a place of worship for adherents of the Shia branch of Islam. ISIS believes in an extremist form of Sunni Islam and has often attacked Shia targets. It was a case of triple murder near Calgary that shocked the country. The victims, a 5-year-old boy and his grandparents. And today, after weeks of disturbing testimony, a verdict: guilty on all 3 counts. Douglas Garland now awaits his sentence. Carolyn Dunn reports.
This may have been the last act of freedom Douglas Garland will experience in his life. He was, say prosecutors, sneaking back onto his family farm to hide or destroy evidence right before he was arrested for murder. It was just one piece of an overwhelming amount of circumstantial evidence that led a jury to convict Douglas Garland of 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count for each of the lives of Alvin Lickness, Kathy Lickness, and their grandson, Nathan O'Brien. This was not an easy trial for jurors.
It was graphic, it was tough, long hours, complicated evidence. We fed them a lot of different
areas of expertise from DNA to CCTV to bloodstain pattern analysis.
The Crown said Garland was motivated by a grudge over a soured business deal that festered for years. He attacked the Licknesses in their home in the summer of 2014. Young Nathan just happened to be there having a sleepover. A truck connected to Douglas Garland was spotted leaving the area hours later. The Crown believes all three were alive but restrained in the back of that truck. Police found grisly evidence on the Garland family farm, hidden computer hard drives containing searches for the best torture and murder techniques, weapons and restraints, and DNA from all three victims on the property, including a pair of rubber boots with Garland's DNA on the inside and the DNA of his victims on the outside. In addition, police discovered a still smoldering barrel containing bone and tooth fragments in the ash. Douglas Garland had no reaction when the verdict was read, but his defense team was disappointed. They'd felt they'd made a case for reasonable doubt. Obviously, the jury disagreed.
It's always a hard case for the jury to think about when they're dealing with a young child and a family. Always. Everyone appreciates that.
Tomorrow, Justice David Gates will sentence Garland. He has the option of imposing 3 consecutive sentences, and that means 57-year-old Douglas Garland could face up to 75 years in prison. Carolyn Dunn, CBC News, Calgary.
Another messy winter storm is hammering Atlantic Canada just 2 days after the region was hit by a record-breaking blizzard. This latest system brought a nasty mix of snow and freezing rain to Nova Scotia, PEI, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland's Avalon Peninsula. In the hardest hit areas, people were told to stay off the roads, and schools and government offices were closed. Last night's special coverage of the passing of Stuart McLean meant delaying part 2 of Terence McKenna's documentary series on immigration. For At Issue watchers, it ran earlier this week, but both it and Rex will return next week. So a quick break now, and then the special McKenna documentary.
It is the single biggest tax grab in Canadian history. Finance Minister Michael Wilson's new goods and services tax will bring in $24 billion a year.
People are going to be a little apprehensive about what that change means to them.
Anytime you buy something, you'll be paying the new federal tax.
This is a cruel tax, a brutal tax, a mean tax.
Business owners say the new tax will mean chaos for them, confusion for their customers.
I don't even want to think about it right now.
In Vancouver, the GST has been dubbed the grief and suffering tax.
I get in the cab and I say, if the cab feels a little sluggish, it's because I've got Mr. Wilson tied up in the trunk. Because they know who Mr. Wilson is.
There's a brand new creature coming out of Ottawa. The biggest tax collector that you ever saw. Gonna make you pay your money day and night. You get less, we get more.
Saloon keeper Vaughn Gramatovich may seem an unlikely leader for a popular tax revolt.
18 months ago, they threatened to tax my haircuts. And that was it. That was the thing that set me off.
This is what brought the crowd to Parliament Hill, a chance to denounce the government's goods and services tax.
We have to tell Brian Mulroney, take back this tax. Think of me as a new pet who ain't been spayed. Long as I'm fed, no need to be afraid.
The RCMP refused to allow a group of demonstrators driving Ottawa cabs to circle the hill. The cabbies began pushing to go ahead. A lone tax supporter was turned on.
Before anyone ever pays it, the goods and services tax is coming down. The GST was supposed to be 9%. It's going to be 7%.
Protesters carried placards reminding the government that the most recent public opinion poll puts it at 15%, a new record low in popularity.
If we continue to do the right thing for Canada, not what is popular, but what is right, we will be in first place on election night.
The bill passed this last reading in the Commons to a chorus of boos from hecklers in the gallery.
I fear Islamization because we see it.
I just want a safe place to live, to study, to sleep.
Well, the compassion to help war-torn refugees versus the fear of a mass influx of newcomers. Germany's response to the migrant crisis is more than 30 times the scale of Canada's. Now, the German government is facing a backlash. As we mentioned earlier, Prime Minister Trudeau meets Chancellor Merkel tomorrow at a time when her country is being torn apart by the politics of immigration. Terence McKenna tells us more.
Europe's most powerful leader is losing political strength and could face defeat in the elections later this year. Huge crowds have flooded into the streets to protest against her refugee policy. And a new anti-immigrant political party is surging in popularity, echoing the U.S. president.
The system is rigged, yes. Drain the swamp.
How did the German chancellor get into this mess? It all started 18 months ago. In the early summer of 2015, the war in Syria generated an exodus of biblical proportions. Hundreds of thousands of refugees flooded across the Aegean Sea to Greece and began walking to Central Europe. Many said they were headed to Europe's richest country, Germany, where some even had relatives. German Chancellor Angela Merkel had often spoken about fostering a welcome culture in her country, but she seemed uncertain about how to handle the approaching crisis. She appeared on a town hall TV program about immigration and encountered a young Palestinian girl whose family had not yet been accepted as refugees to Germany.
Ich weiß nicht, wie meine Zukunft aussieht, solange ich nicht wirklich weiß, dass ich hier bleiben kann.
At first, Merkel took a hard line about Germany not having room for all refugees.
Du bist ja ein unheimlich sympathischer Mensch, aber du weißt auch, in den palästinensischen Flüchtlingslagern im Libanon gibt es noch Tausende und Tausende. Und wenn wir jetzt sagen, ihr könnt alle kommen und ihr könnt alle aus Afrika kommen und ihr könnt alle kommen, das können wir auch nicht schaffen.
Then she was clearly moved when the girl started to cry.
Oh, komm.
The chancellor was obviously torn by her conflicting instincts and responsibilities. In her offices at the German Reichstag, there were emergency late-night meetings in which the estimated scale of the refugee wave kept growing. Stefan Meyer is a member of the German parliament and a key ally of Angela Merkel in the governing coalition.
We didn't expect such an influx. In the beginning of 2015, the expectations were to receive about 300,000 refugees in total in 2015. And then in middle of August, the new forecast was 800,000, and I have to admit this was really astonishing.
Merkel's critics reject any notion that the refugee crisis came as a surprise to her. Michael Sturmer is a conservative historian and senior editor of the Welt newspaper.
She was ill-prepared, and so was the government. The federal police had warned a year before of what would happen. After all, the war in Syria started in 2011. There was no surprise, but she was surprised, and then she panicked, and we lost control. And she put a friendly face on it and called it welcome culture, while the rest of the nation said, oh, for God's sake, we don't buy that.
In August of 2015, refugees arriving in Germany were bused to special shelters sprinkled across the country. The first resistance began to appear. Violent anti-immigrant protests began. Gangs of young men barring the road to stop the arrivals. Several refugee shelters were set on fire. Neo-Nazi groups were accused of the arson.
Certainly these images are a shame for Germany, and this can't be accepted.
Angela Merkel was shocked by the violent anti-immigrant protests. On August 26, 2015, to show solidarity with the victims, she made a visit to a refugee shelter in Heidenau that had been attacked. She was loudly booed by protesters. Some screamed that she was a traitor and a slut. The incident seemed to redouble her determination to welcome refugees.
I know about the scene, but if you are Chancellor of Germany or Prime Minister of Canada, your emotions have to be under control. You cannot be guided by your emotions.
And do you think that's what happened with her?
She's a control freak. But in this case, she did not control the situation, nor did she control her own emotions.
Wenn wir jetzt anfangen, uns noch entschuldigen zu müssen dafür, dass wir in Notsituationen ein freundliches Gesicht zeigen, dann ist das nicht mein Land.
On August 27th, the day after the Heidenau incident, a truck was found just off the Austrian Autobahn headed for Germany. Inside were 71 dead refugees who had smothered while being smuggled across European borders. On August 30th came the photograph of 3-year-old refugee Alan Kurdi washed up dead on the beach at Bodrum, Turkey. All these images and events made a big impression on Angela Merkel, and so she marched into her annual end-of-summer press conference on August 31st and made her historic pronouncement on the refugee issue. She began with a denunciation of the anti-immigrant demonstrators in Germany.
Folgen Sie denen nicht, die zu solchen Demonstrationen aufrufen. Es gibt keine Toleranz gegenüber denen, die die Würde anderer Menschen in Frage stellen.
Then the Chancellor uttered her landmark declaration.
Wir schaffen das.
We can do this. In the following days, Merkel opened Germany's borders to an estimated 850,000 refugees.
People started here with going on the streets.
Tatjana Festerling is an anti-immigration politician in the East German city of Dresden, which became a hotbed of resistance to Merkel's refugee policy.
When Angela Merkel famously said, "We can do this," what was your response to that?
Who is we? Who is we? And she made up her mind. She was the one who made this decision to open our borders illegally. And now she puts responsibility to us, to us, the people. We didn't decide that.
There is no extra places for the refugees. There is no...
Of all the Syrian refugees who came to Germany in the summer of 2015, one in particular played a key role. His name is Ayaz Morad. He was studying English at Damascus University when the Syrian crisis began, and later decided that he had to lead his 2 sisters and other family members to safety as ISIS closed in on their village in northern Syria. His father was worried that his sisters would be raped.
So my father decided, when you want to go to travel, just take your sisters with you. I said, we can't do it.
Fleeing ISIS, Ayaz and his family members made their way from northern Syria over the border into Turkey and eventually to the coastal city of Izmir. There they paid a smuggler $1,200 a person for a place on a plastic inflatable dinghy. They set off at night in a boat like this for a 12-hour voyage. The seas soon became rough.
We got a lot of water into our plastic boat, and we tried to get it out with plastic bags and with our shoes.
You're bailing with your shoes?
Yeah, it was very difficult, but we said if we won't do it, it will be, we will die here. The women and the kids, they were all praying, oh God, help us. It was very dangerous.
When the sinking boat finally came close to the Greek coast, they were saved by the Coast Guard. From Greece, Ayaz and his family made their way north through Serbia and into Hungary. They reached the train station in Budapest.
Where are you going? Where are you going?
At the beginning of September 2015, the Budapest train station had become a refugee camp. The Hungarian government refused to allow the refugees to board trains for Central Europe. Desperate migrants piled up on the train platforms. Ayaz and his friends had an idea. If there were no trains, they could just walk the 90 kilometers to the Austrian border. Ayaz got hold of a loudspeaker and convinced many people to join them.
We told them there is no trains to go to Austria or Germany. We should do something else. We can go and walk together. Nobody can stop us. Next day, we just collect all the people. 4,000 people, women, kids are all walking. And we just walk.
Word had passed of Merkel's announcement that Germany would welcome refugees. Ayaz set off on the march carrying a large picture of her.
She is now like my mother here, because the mother should do something in order to help her kids to carry them, and she forget about herself. And she did the same. She opened the door for us.
They marched across Hungary in the searing summer heat.
The Hungarian government was very bad with us, but the people were very good with us. They brought us a lot of food and drinks. It was very sunny, it was very hot.
Eventually, the Hungarian government provided buses to transport the refugees to the Austrian border.
And as I said, welcome refugees, come on to us, we will help you. This was like a paradise.
When the refugees finally made it to Germany, they were met at the train station by large crowds of people with signs of welcome.
It was very, very nice. We just said we achieved it. We've done it.
Just as Ayaz Murad made it to Germany, rebellion against the government's welcome of refugees was about to explode. When Angela Merkel said, "We can do this," many Germans said, "No, we cannot." The strongest resistance to the Merkel refugee policy began here in the eastern German city of Dresden. The demonstrations that popped up in Dresden were organized by the group Pegida, which stands for Patriotic Europeans Against the Islamization of the West. These protests were held weekly and sometimes attracted up to 40,000 people. About 200,000 Germans reportedly joined Pegida's Facebook group. Tatjana Festerling was one of Pegida's leading voices.
I fear Islamization because we see it in many parts of Germany. We already see Islamized regions.
You feel that Muslims are taking over?
Yeah, yes. Because we are so weak and they are so strong and they are so violent and they, we are the thinkers and we are arguing and we are the logical, the more rational type, and they're acting.
I think a lot of people would listen to this interview and think she is racist and xenophobic and proud of it.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care if this is racism in the opinion of some green or leftist or of these Soros or I don't know, no border, no nation ideologists, then I don't care.
The Pegida movement has been mostly confined to the former East Germany, which historically has had very few immigrants. The region has also struggled economically in the 26 years since German reunification. Now, Pegida supporters have flooded into a new anti-immigrant political party, Alternative for Germany. The party's charismatic leader is Frauke Petry, a former East German chemist who did her postgraduate work in Britain. In the last midterm election, the party astonished political observers by making strong gains, even in Angela Merkel's home constituency. In a controversial interview when the German crisis broke out in 2015, Frauke Petry insisted that German border guards should be allowed to use their weapons to stop migrants from illegally crossing into the country.
When you talk about German border guards using weapons against refugees, are you trying to send them some kind of message? Don't come here, you may be shot? What was the purpose of that?
If you read the interview that I gave, I was asked about possibilities to secure the German border, and I cited a German law that, as ultima ratio, also allows the use of weapons. Nothing more I did, and media created a scandal from it. If it's not possible in a democratic society to cite the laws that exist, then I think we do have a problem.
Are you appealing to the same kind of xenophobic people that we saw supporting Pegida?
Well, what do you mean by xenophobic?
Well, that they hate foreigners. They don't like foreigners.
Well,
they're protesting against foreigners.
Why do you think we do that?
You say there should be no minarets, there should be no Sharia law or Muslim veiled women.
But now you talk about Islam, now you don't talk about foreigners. So what are we talking about?
Well, now I'm talking about Muslims, and I guess I worry that you are encouraging Islamophobia. Do you reject that?
Well, how come you think that? When we talk about religion, we think we should openly discuss openly the differences and the problems connected to that. There's nothing xenophobic about it, and I think AfD contributed very valuable material to this discussion, and we will have to have this discussion in Germany because we have serious integration problems connected to religious background.
Please raise your... When we come back, Alternative for Germany gets a boost from the election of Donald Trump.
That I will faithfully execute.
You have to go for a dope test.
A track star nowadays has to be followed around by a doping official almost any time she wins a major event. What the testers are mainly looking for here is the subject of an international ban. Anabolic steroids, a derivative of the male sex hormone which is supposed to build muscle.
The athletes say all this doping control business is a bit of a waste of time and money, which is something the Canadian team does not have in abundance.
Good evening. The nation is in shock tonight over the downfall of a Canadian hero. Ben Johnson, who made the country so proud on Friday, was, just hours ago, thrown out of the Olympics for taking drugs, steroids.
Oh, that's devastating.
It makes me wonder what's happening to Canadian athletics.
It's the biggest disappointment anybody could ever imagine.
In this Montreal lab, scientists test the blood and urine of athletes for signs of drug use, signs of cheating. There's no shortage of work and much more to come now that Montreal has been named headquarters of the World Anti-Doping Agency.
There will be more pressure on Canadian athletes, but not only Canadian athletes, all athletes around the world.
Europe's fastest sprinter has become the latest athlete to test positive for a new designer steroid called THG. The drug is at the heart of a widening doping scandal in the U.S.
Fortunes have fallen for American sprinter Marion Jones.
American cyclist Floyd Landis has admitted to using performance-enhancing drugs.
Lance Armstrong has finally coughed up what was pretty much an open secret.
Do you feel disgraced?
Of course. If you're the second best athlete in the world, you might do anything to be number one. Whether there's testing or whether there isn't testing.
This is Mordecai Richler, a Canadian writer now living in England. And these are some of the things he writes.
Young people are leaving Canada, one, because they feel there is no opportunity for them at home, and two, because they're bored.
It's a small country, and if you're an English-speaking Canadian, there's certainly no capital. The cultural capitals are either New York or London.
Another reason I write is it's this continuing attempt to evolve a standard or a position or a moral posture. And I work it out in my books, and I'm still working it out.
My loyalties, or what I think of as Canada, is really Montreal, the Laurentians, the region surrounding the city. I tend to feel something of a stranger in other parts of Canada. I have no overwhelming sense of country.
I'm not the most pretentious of writers. I write for my own pleasure and for my friends, and I hope to find as wide an audience as possible. I try to be an honest witness to my times.
You have been known to make rather rude statements in public, probably slightly under the influence of...
No, that's not fair. I mean, what I mean is, I wasn't necessarily under the influence.
You mean you can be rude without drinking, is that?
If called upon.
Multiculturalism was a very well-intended notion, like most Canadian notions, but not very bright like most Canadian notions.
I'm trying to tell the truth. I don't think that it's something that has to be in season like hockey or hay fever. I think you should be able to tell the truth at any time. And if it makes people uncomfortable, I can't help it. Well, I think I'm very fortunate in that most men work at jobs they dislike intensely because they have to support a family, and most women do. So anyone who's being paid to do work he enjoys is very privileged in this world, and I don't have to ingratiate myself with anybody or taint my work in order to make it appealing. So I'm very lucky.
Ayaz Murad and his family have now been accepted as refugees to Germany.
Wir werden sehen, ob sie alle recht hatten.
Amadius setzte sich erst
Ayaz has had 16 months of language lessons.
durch nach dem Rundfunk.
He says he now speaks German better than he speaks English.
Ja, gut. Danke. Bis dahin erstmal.
Okay.
Und wenn es nicht funktionieren sollte, wir...
He attends special job fairs for refugees at which major German companies are recruiting new workers.
Ich weiter studieren.
He is hoping to find a job in the information technology sector.
Und dann bin ich jetzt in Deutschland gekommen.
But several major events have set back the cause of refugees in Germany. First, there were the New Year's Eve sexual attacks on women during celebrations in Cologne and several other German cities. Those arrested were mostly North African immigrants who have been in Europe for years. But recent refugees were widely blamed. Then came the terrorist attack on the Berlin Christmas market. Again, the man responsible was a Tunisian who had been in Europe for years. But again, the incident was blamed on Angela Merkel's refugee policy. The Alternative for Germany referred to the Berlin victims as Merkel's dead and claimed that refugees were bringing ISIS-sponsored terrorism.
They told us that we are the terrorists, but actually I'm a victim of ISIS. I'm a normal person. I just want a safe place to live, to study, to sleep. Yeah.
Another boost for the anti-Muslim Alternative for Germany came with the election of Donald Trump in the United States.
So yes, we see, at least in rough pictures, what happened, and we see that many of the reasons why people voted for Trump find the parallel in Europe.
Has the Trump victory had a significant impact in European politics?
Certainly. It becomes acceptable. What is acceptable in society has changed.
You're saying the threshold has been lowered?
The threshold of brutal language, of hatred, open hatred, has been lowered, absolutely.
And that has an effect here?
Well, if it happens in America, it can easily happen here.
German opinion polls show a decline in popularity for Angela Merkel, while the populist Alternative for Germany party is gaining ground quickly and will likely have a strong representation in the next parliament, about 20% of the seats. In January, all the right-wing European anti-immigrant parties met in Koblenz, Germany. They all paid tribute to the election of Donald Trump, and they now feel the tide of history is on their side. Terence McKenna, CBC News, Berlin.
When we come back, as the tributes pour in for Stuart McLean, some artists feel they owe him an extra thank you.
Monday, October 19th, the slide that didn't stop. Stock markets around the world go into a tailspin.
It's Black Monday. There's never been a day like this one on the stock market. Panic selling has shattered records.
Fear, pandemonium, and incredible force wreaking havoc in financial markets throughout the world.
It's bad, bad.
One word, plummet.
Panic selling.
Panic selling, that's all it is.
Crazy in there. It's really busy, really hectic.
Jeffrey, not a good day.
By the closing bell on the New York Stock Exchange, the Dow Jones Industrial Average had plunged a record 508 points for a one-day loss of 22.6%, far surpassing the 12.8% drop on October 28, 1929, the day some say heralded in the Great Depression.
The Great Crash of 1929. The day the market fell, the stocks plummeted in value, paper fortunes wiped out, and much of the world left with a headache that lasted for a full decade.
What was it like? You were there 40 years ago. Like, well, it was bedlam and madness and fright and terror, and in some cases people committing suicide who had several $1 million at one moment, and then within a week they had nothing.
Could it ever happen again?
I suppose everything can happen again.
Stock markets around the world went on a wild ride today.
190 points in the morning, then down again, then up again, finally closing up by 102 points. A record one-day gain, which nevertheless recouped only a fifth of yesterday's big losses.
They're all coming back now. Even the dogs have a new day.
The economic fundamentals in this country remain sound, and our citizens should not panic.
Governments today acted swiftly and decisively. They lowered interest rates and they pumped billions of dollars into the financial system. Moves designed to end the fear that the stock market crash will precipitate an economic recession.
It's just a crazy market. You can be dead in 20 minutes.
We're looking for some more sizable swings, sometimes up, sometimes down for the next few weeks, before it's really clear what the trend will be.
Another volatile day on financial markets throughout the world. Prices started plunging in London. Panic quickly spread as Wall Street opened for business. And it put all other North American stock exchanges into another nosedive.
Having the weekends here. One more day to go. Thank God. Lose my voice as it is. I know that. Oh, wait a minute. Yes.
In the U.S. alone, $600 billion were wiped off the value of stocks in a single week. Investors could only watch in helpless fascination.
Even if you lost tens of thousands of dollars, you know, you could find something, you know, it's fascinating. The way sometimes a bloodbath is fascinating.
The National.
And Jeremy's mother said, "Do you know what they are doing? Well, they're downstairs watching Lethal Weapon 3, and they're all knitting."
Through his storytelling and humor, Stuart McLean had a profound way of connecting with Canadians. And today they are sharing stories about the CBC radio host and the impact he had on their lives. Among those paying tribute, musicians who credit McLean with launching their careers. Here's Havard Gould.
Porch-dwelling dreamers who can't remember why they came.
Melissa McClelland and Luke Doucette, when they heard Stuart McLean had died, the first thing they did was sit down and sing one of his favorites from when they toured with him.
Just when you thought you...
Stuart McLean encouraged them to form their band Whitehorse and helped launch it on one of his cross-Canada tours.
Next song is about
in an industry where some can't bear sharing the spotlight, they knew Stuart McLean as instinctively generous.
Stuart wasn't, you know, doing favors for record labels or this or that. He was really searching out raw talent in Canada and really trying to give those artists an opportunity.
I think it made him proud that he could stand at the end of the show and like, look at us, we're all one big team.
You are my sunshine.
The Good Lovelies, busy working on their 6th full-length album, say the exposure and support from Stuart McLean gave them a boost when they needed it most.
People started to write us emails and people started to hear us from across Canada, and we had barely gone on a tour yet.
He really challenged us to be our very best, and his show was his show, and but it was also our show too. He really wanted to give us an opportunity to be our best in front of all these folks.
McLean, always scouting for talent, found them. But getting on the Vinyl Cafe was just the beginning. For McLean coached, advised, helped whenever he could.
He really encouraged us to just aim higher, shoot higher, be better, be bigger.
Which makes his loss even larger.
Oh, where did the love go?
Howard Gould, CBC News, Toronto.
When we return, celebrating a decades-old moment in music that's still relevant today. But first, time for the day's business numbers. The TSX gained 19 points, continuing its record-breaking streak. The Canadian dollar fell slightly. In New York, the Dow also reached another record high, and the price of oil was up 25 cents a barrel.
The computer is not an evil genius. It has, so far, neither character nor sex, but it is our indispensable tool for collecting, sorting, and disseminating information.
You feel premarital sex is all right under certain circumstances.
This young lady is seeking a husband the scientific way. The process begins with a psychological examination. By personality test and depth interview, he reduces her to a punch card. Then he runs her through an electronic sorting machine. It matches her personality to suitable men.
Well, right now we're lobbying in various countries around the world to get laws passed which will control the use of computers, especially where large dossiers of information on people exist without any safeguards for the people. It's anonymous information. You never know who's asking for such information. I think we need a kind of licensing structure for computer use, just as we have licensing structure for doctors, we have licensing for dentists, we have other professions which deal with man very basically, and the computers do.
The electronic web, privacy in the computer age.
We are living in a new world of electronic processing of information and simply information gathering on a scale that we've never seen before.
You don't know what happens to personal information once you give it to someone. It can be stored, transferred, linked, matched. All kinds of things can happen.
Updating the messages people have left, clearing out the old ones, and writing new ones takes the guys about 9 hours each day. But by doing it, they've found fun, friendship, and girls.
I have a girlfriend from the modem. Yes, I do.
Information sharing is so phenomenal, so widespread, that it would be impossible to control. It really is impossible to control.
Is there such a thing as privacy then?
No, there hasn't been privacy since, well, probably about the mid-'80s. We've built a beast that we can't cage.
So envision now a way society can be moving in which we don't spend the time to get to know each other. We now do searches. We now do private investigations before we commit ourselves to the traditional ways of creating friendships and acquaintances.
I don't know, usually I would say probably an hour a day, if not sometimes more.
That's how much time Grody usually spends on this website. Facebook is the latest craze when it comes to online friend network.
You just want to know what everybody's doing and check the pictures they put up and whether you're invited to any events. And for most of the reason, I don't know why I check so much.
Privacy was once a sacred value in our society. Now we are baring our psyches to strangers. The National.
After 50 years in music, Pink Floyd announced a career-spanning retrospective today, an exhibition that opens in London this May. It includes elements from their hugely influential 1979 work, The Wall. The topic very much on their minds today as well. Co-founders Nick Mason and Roger Waters both spoke out against Donald Trump's planned border wall with Mexico, calling it counterproductive and sadly reminiscent of the Berlin Wall. That's The National this Thursday night. For news at any hour, you can always go to our website, cbcnews.ca. I'm Peter Mansbridge. Thanks for watching.